Dear God, I just want to thank you so much for who you are. Lord, thank you for this Christmas season where we remember what you did so long ago. Lord, I just pray as we continue this throwback series, would you just teach us something new through stories most of us have heard. We love you so much. In your name, amen. Hey, when I was in high school, I tell a lot of stories, especially if you have been coming to North Coast for a while. If you go to tournament series, but if you go to TNL, if you're in 6th grade and you go in May at the end and you're going to become in 8th grade, that transition, I like to share my story, kind of like how God worked in my life going into 7th grade. I might have said that wrong. But here's the thing is I talk a lot about how I grew up at a Christian school and then ended up going to Vista High my freshman year and how scared I was. And me and my brother were the scared to death kids. We were told we were going to get beat up just for being little white boys of 92 pounds as freshmen. And so we were scared going to Vista High. And so just to give you a little bit of context with me is I thought, because I'd grown up in a Christian school my whole life, that I thought that no Christians went to public school. So I thought when I'm going to Vista High, there's no Christians there. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, that's not the truth. A lot of you go to public schools, but that's not what I thought of because I grew up in my little bubble. So I go to Vista High, and I'm already scared, and you've heard the stories that I was scared of gang members. And my brother and I, our first class was World Civilization. And you see, because my brother and I transferred twins, because we transferred like a week or two before, hey, guys in the back, make sure you're not talking back there. I can hear you. You're distracting me, just so you know. So because of that, all of our teachers given our transcripts, they all knew we went to Tri-City. They all knew we were probably Christians or at least that kind of thing. And so here we are in the school. We're trying to be incognito, trying to not stick out because we're scared that if people find out we're Christians, we might get beat up. Who knows? The fears you have are stupid sometimes, but they're real in our minds, our perceptions there. So we're in the back of this class because the teacher actually had assigned seating because we're last named Seibert. Somehow we were in the back over there, and we were trying not to talk as much as possible. We'd been there about 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and our class is talking about evolution. Now, I grew up at a Christian school. We didn't talk about evolution. We talked about creation. So I knew a lot about creation, didn't know anything about evolution, but I did believe evolution has no evidence. It's a theory where creation has a lot of evidence that supports that. And so I knew that much, okay? And so the teacher is talking about evolution, and she's talking about these skulls, like the different skulls of human skulls they found, whether they were human or not, because they just found these skulls. And they were saying, see, this one is half the size of a human skull. This one's 3/4. This proves evolution. And I was like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if that totally makes sense. They're just skulls. We don't know what they're from, whatever. But she's saying this, and she's like, Travis, what do you think of that? Okay, now, obviously, I knew something was wrong because even when I started the class and everyone was saying their names, she kind of treated me and my brother a little different. We found out later that she did not like Christians, and obviously that was true with her way she approached us. So in her class, when she called us out, we had to stand up. So I'm like, oh, crud. And she's like, Travis, what do you think? See, this proves evolution. Now, I have never been in class going, you're wrong, teacher. No, I've never said anything. I'm trying to be quiet. But she has something out for me, so I stand up. And I don't know what to say. And I just said, well, actually, teacher, that doesn't prove evolution. That's just different size skulls. Those could have been skulls of different monkeys or something like we don't know. But that doesn't prove anything. And she said, well, that's what you think. Sit down, Travis. So I sit down. I'm like, crap. Now she's kind of mad at me. Who knows what the class thinks? And then she picks the most popular kid in the freshman class. You see, his name was Joe. His older brother was the ASB president. He was a senior, and he was running for freshman class president. In fact, we know, because this was years ago, a week later, he won it. So he was one of the most popular kids in our school. And she's like, Joe, what do you think? In this nice way, and Joe stands up, and I'm thinking he's going to go, Travis, an idiot, totally blah, blah, and he goes, actually, I agree with Travis. And I was like, wait, what the heck? And she's like, well, that's what you think. You sit down, too. And I was like, almost like, and that was when I realized, oh, my goodness, there are other Christians in this school, and I realized I wasn't alone, and it was kind of neat. And you see, I took this stand, and it was actually the teacher that made me stand, but we are continuing our throwback series where we are going back and going through different stories that a lot of us have probably heard. And if you haven't read the whole story, you've heard the story, you know something a little bit about it, and we're going to actually dig in read the whole story, or go through the whole story, and then we're going to talk about how it relates to your life as junior hires. Because some of these stories you hear and you just think they're stories, and we don't understand. There's an amazing stuff behind them that you can use, that God wants to use to grow you and challenge you. And so if you have your Bibles, we're going to talk about 3 guys who could have been teenagers at this time. We know they were teenagers when the book of Daniel started. We don't know how old they are at this point, but we're going to talk about 3 guys that they took a stand, an incredible stand. And it's a story I said a lot of you have heard before, but we're going to be talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and how they were thrown into the fiery furnace. And I was like, oh yeah, I have heard that. I don't know the whole story, but I've heard that before. And so if you have your Bibles, Daniel chapter 3. Now, here's the thing is we don't have time to go through the whole, read line by line. I just don't have time. It's a longer story. But here's what I got to do. Before we even go in the story, I got to give you context. You see, here's what happened is it goes all the way back in the Bible, how God had his chosen people through Abraham. And then they were put in Egypt. And then Moses came and said, let my people go. And he takes them to a promised land, a land they had promised them. And they go in there and they go in this land. And he has these kings, King Saul, King David, who we talked about last week, King Solomon, and all these kings. But guess what? They sinned. They weren't doing, these kings, especially down the line of David, were terrible kings in some ways, and the nation disobeyed God, and God said, well, fine, I'm going to punish you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another nation come and rule you and even take you away from the promised land. So the Babylonians come in, they wipe out Jerusalem, and they take all the people, make them slaves, and they take the best of the best, young, bright, intelligent minds of the Jews, and they take them to Babylon to train them to be in the course. They want to train them their way, not the Bible's way, but their way. And they take these people, and they're in this land now. Prophecy had already said they were only going to be in the land for 70-something years, but they were going to have to go through this. And so you have the story, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel. A lot of the book of Daniel is about these 4 guys, different stories that happen with them. And you come to this scene where the guy that had gone and taken them and destroyed Jerusalem was a guy named King Nebuchadnezzar. He was of the Babylonians, and he's pretty famous. In fact, he's a famous king not only in the Bible, but in world history. You know that world history teacher I was talking about? King Nebuchadnezzar is known. He is so famous that he's also known for one of the 7 wonders of the world of that time. He is very famous, something called the Hanging Gardens. I don't know if you guys have heard of that in class. Maybe you've heard that. There's something called the Hanging Gardens. He's the one that came out. He was so ahead of his time in some ways. He was brilliant. And because of that, he was also pretty prideful, pretty cocky about it. So we come to chapter 3, and he decides, because he wants everyone to know how great he is, he decides to build this statue that's 90 feet high, 9 feet wide of gold. Now, there's a chance it wasn't completely gold, because that would have been so heavy, but it was probably gold-plated, but it was beautiful, it was huge, and it was monstrous. It was this crazy, huge statue. He builds it. He's so proud of it that he puts it in the middle in this area, and he has thousands and thousands of his top officials. Okay, there's different names for them, satraps, administrators. You can read it all. It's all in Daniel chapter 3, and he has them all, and it's all his, important people. In fact, we see that it's somewhere between, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people that are these special people for his kingdom, and he has them all come and gather around the statue. It'd almost be like Petco Park, the Padres baseball stadium. It holds around that amount. So imagine it's full of people, and there's this huge 90-foot statue in the middle, and he says, when the music plays of all the instruments, you need to bow down and worship this statue. Now, here's the thing you understand is, if you're an Israelite, if you're a Jew at this time, you're not allowed to do that, because we only worship God, right? That is a sin to bow down and worship that. So everyone is supposed to do that. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're in the crowd. So the music plays, and everyone starts bowing down. But of course, they don't bow down. Now, which is funny, in 40,000 people, you probably wouldn't even have seen them not bow down. But, oh no, there were some spies. There were some people who had it out for them, and they run to Nebuchadnezzar, and they say, Nebuchadnezzar, there are 3 guys, 3 Israelites, 3 Jews that did not bow down. And King Nebuchadnezzar is furious. He's like, that's it. It's in verse 13 of chapter 3. It says, furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summons Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king. And he says, is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of all the music, I'm going to give you a chance. You know, you can kind of see, it's kind of crazy, but built in there, you kind of see he does kind of like them because remember, they've risen through the ranks. They're high up officials, so they've definitely, God has blessed them, so he gives them another chance. Some kings would never get a chance, like, but I'm going to give you another chance. Tell you what, maybe you got it wrong. Okay, maybe you were thinking, you're like, well, I don't know. And he's like, I'm going to give you another chance. You're just going to bow down. Now, here's the thing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they don't even wait for the music. They immediately talk back to Nebuchadnezzar. Get what they say. It says right here, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in verse 16 replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown in the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it. And he will rescue us from our hand. What courage. What amazing, faith they have in God. Is that amazing? Like, he will save us. We don't care about you. Fine, throw us in there. We're not scared of the stinking furnace, right? And then, I don't know if you use your Bible as a textbook like I do, but this next line, if you do, this would be the one to underline, because this is one of my favorite verses in this chapter. It says, but even if he does not, even if God does not save us, isn't that crazy? He will save us. He has the power to save us. We can totally survive this furnace. But even if he doesn't, I love that. You know, they have faith. They know, hey, maybe this isn't God is saying right now, I'm not going to save him. They don't know. But even if he doesn't, we want you to know, O king, we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. We're not scared of it. And if God doesn't want to save us, we're okay with that because we want to follow him. We have faith in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar is so furious, so furious. If you want to keep reading, it says that he is so upset that he has them make the fire 7 times hotter. I don't know how they did that back then, but he made it 7 times hotter. And then he got his strongest men tied up, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, bound him up, and it says they threw him in the furnace. And this is what's crazy about the story. It says the fire was so hot that when they were throwing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into this furnace, the men that threw them in the furnace died. That's how hot it was. Like, they didn't even get thrown in the furnace. They just had to go next to it, and they were throwing them in. They died from how hot it was. Okay, that is hot. So that's hot. They get thrown in. They should have been melted, okay? I wouldn't be surprised if King Nebuchadnezzar kind of was a little, crazy and wicked and just wanted to see a melted body. Who knows, okay? But they threw him in there, and that's what should have happened because it was that hot. But what happens if you go down to verse 24, it says, then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men we tied and threw in the fire? They replied, certainly, O king. And he said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire. Okay, they aren't melted yet. They're not dead yet. They're walking around in the fire. I love this. And it says, unbound and unharmed. They had ropes around them. So that means the ropes were burned up, but they were not. Unbound, unharmed, walking around, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods. Oh, I love, hey, if you have use your Bible as a textbook, underline, walk around like the son of the gods, okay? I love that, but there are some amazing things just dripping in that little phrase right there. You see, here's the thing. We know that God came down to earth as a human in the New Testament. Do you remember what his name is? What is it? It's Jesus, okay? So Jesus, the Son of God, we know that Jesus, when he was on this earth, he said, I was before. I was alive before. I have lived forever. He created this universe, Jesus. So when you see God in the Old Testament, and there's several times you see God. Whenever you see God, and there's stories that this is God, and they will bow down before this person, we are led to believe that that is the image of Jesus. That means people saw Jesus. They were waiting for the Messiah to come, and people actually saw him. Nebuchadnezzar might have seen Jesus before he came. There's a story with Abraham in the Old Testament in Genesis where he stops with the priest Melchizedek. Okay, I think I say his name right. And he presents him with a tithe, and people think that was the image, that was Jesus. There's a story in Joshua where, in the beginning of Joshua, the book of Joshua, it's an amazing story where the Israelites are going to go in and now take the promised land. And Joshua's getting ready, and he sees this angel or something. He says, "Are you for me or against me?" He's like, "Neither, because I am God." And he's like, whoa, there's a chance that was Jesus. And there are all these stories. And just a cool little background. Imagine if all these people got to see Jesus before he came during the time of that we hear the story, the birth of Jesus, and he grew up and died on the cross. Imagine if they'd already seen him. Isn't that amazing? But there's a chance. This is just a little tidbit that might have been there. And so he sees them. And so Nebuchadnezzar's like, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, get out of there. Come out of right now." And they come out. And here's what's crazy. It says when they get out, they're not harmed. None of the hair on their body is singed. Listen, I have like longer arm hair. If I get near the stove, sometimes it'll get singed and it has this weird smell. Not a hair was singed. And get this, they didn't even smell like smoke. Okay, how many of you guys have been like at a campfire hanging out, and then maybe you're at the beach bonfire doing marshmallows, and then you go home, you smell like you've been in smoke, but you've been fired. They didn't even smell like smoke. Is that an amazing miracle? And right there when they get out, Nebuchadnezzar says, "You must have the one true God." And it's this amazing story where they got promoted. They got to prove how amazing God was. Now you hear that story, and you're like, "Dude, that's an amazing story, but how does it relate to me?" It's just a cool story. First of all, it's a true story. True characters in there. All these characters, we have evidence of them living, so it's not some fake story. But it's a story that you're like, okay, great, but how does that relate to me? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm never going to have that courage to do that. How does it relate to me? When am I ever going to be thrown into a furnace? Is it just a story to show how amazing God is? And here's the thing is, I think yes, but I also think it's an amazing story that God wants to teach you something about how he works with people. You see, if you go back to Daniel 1, you start to see where God was starting to already prepare Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego for this thing that was going to happen. He's starting to lay the foundation. I still remember when I was in high school, I was on a basketball team, and on my basketball team, the coach was crazy. Okay, it's pretty insane. And our coach would work us really hard. I mean, we would run suicides all the time. We do a lot of running before practice, kind of started. We got in there. Then we'd do our practice. We'd be sweating. We're tired at the end. We're ready to go home. Before we go home, no, all of a sudden, I hated it. You would see people putting bricks on the sideline. You're like, oh, no. And we go to the sideline, and before we're done, we'd have to have 2 bricks, 1 in each hand, and he'd make us run more suicides. We're already tired as heck. And then, before we could go, this was a routine. Every practice, he would make every one of the 12 players have to get on the free throw line and make their free throws. And every time they missed, we'd have to run more suicides. And coach said, "Listen, I know you think this is crazy, but you need to learn how to make your free throws." "But coach, we shoot 50, 100 free throws a day." "I don't care, because it doesn't matter if you can make them. It's when you're tired, when you're beat, when you're worn out. That's when you make them, because that's when we really need you to make them in the game." And he said, "So I'm training you. I'm sorry, I'm preparing, because there might be a time we need to make free throws so we can win a game." And guess what? I still remember I was watching the game. Fortunately, I wasn't playing the game. And we came down to the CIF quarterfinals or semifinals. Winner goes to the championships. Our team is beat, tired, worn out. And we're a tight game. And now we have to shoot free throws. And we were making all of our free throws. And we end up winning that game. And it's almost like coach knew there might be a time we need to do this. You see, I think as we start looking at Daniel, they weren't ready to do that yet. But it goes back to chapter 1. You see, chapter 1, remember I told you how Nebuchadnezzar came and took all of them out and took them to Babylon? We know that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and a guy named Daniel who wrote this book, when they were 15, 16, 17 in high school, they are in the lunch line. And the guard says, listen, all of you need to eat this food. And they're going through the lunch line. They're like, wait a minute, all this food is sacrificed to idols, and we're not allowed to eat food sacrificed to idols, or we will disobey our God. And instead of them eating the food going, no one will care, no one knows, it's not our fault, there's no other choices, they made a stand in high school. We're going to still honor God, even though we might get in trouble. And so they go to the guard and said, we're not eating this. We're going to eat something different. We want vegetables. We want water. I'm telling you. He's like, no, you can't. I'll get in trouble. You need to have the best meat. Fine. So I'm like, nope, we can't. And he said, if you end up being weaker and you're not smart and all that stuff, I will get in trouble. Like, listen, let's test it. Let us do it for 10 days. They do it for 10 days. They are in better shape. They're stronger. They're mentally stronger and all that stuff, to where the guard even says, this is amazing. I'm going to make everyone do that. But it started with the stand they made when they were in high school. They did the right thing when it wasn't as big as it's just what they were going to eat. Whoop-dee. And it all started, they were getting prepared. And I think it's those kind of things made them ready for this. You see, I think God wants to use you here to do something amazing. I think he has a plan for you. He's preparing you. But the problem is, you're not ready. And he wants to start preparing you so he can do something amazing in your life. Now, some of you are like, well, Trav, if something amazing is getting thrown in a fiery furnace, I don't want him to prepare me. Listen, you're not going to probably get thrown in a fiery furnace. That's impossible. It's already been done, okay? There's probably not going to be a statue you have to bow down, but here's the thing is I think God does want to use these things, but you need to be prepared. It's what you do in the small things. So you need to understand this. Write this down. Understand how you serve Christ today can lead to how Christ uses you tomorrow. How you serve Christ today can lead you to how Christ uses you tomorrow. I think how he's using you today, how you are saying, I'm going to be obedient now, I'm going to be obedient in the small things now, is going to affect how he uses you tomorrow. So I want to give you 4 steps real quick on how to be prepared so that God can use you. How do we get prepared? The first thing, really simple. It's on your note sheet, is start now. Start now. I'm going to have for all 4, I'm going to have a don't. Don't make excuses. Start now. What are excuses we make? Well, it's just the small stuff. I don't really need to obey him in everything. Trav, I still want to live my life. I still want to have fun. And it's like, start now. It's start now. Yeah, it's start now, then don't make, it's not totally connected. Don't make excuses. It's barely on there, but it's don't make excuses. All right? Here's the thing is, what's going to happen is, if you don't start now, you're probably not going to realize that God is testing and using you right now. And a lot of us, we're failing. We're not ready for him to use us in some amazing points because we're not getting prepared. You have to start now. Don't make excuses. They're just small things. Trav, who really cares about it? No, it's very important. I still love it. Joseph, it's on your note sheet. It's found in Genesis chapter 29 is what I'm pretty sure it is, 6-20. There's a story. Joseph sold into slavery by his brothers. Totally sucks. Who does that? I don't know, but that's jacked up. And he gets sold into slavery. And here he's in slavery, and he still works hard. He's not making excuses. He's honoring God and everything. And it says that God bless him, so he gets rising through the ranks. Okay? And he becomes number 1 in the household. Well, we also find out he's this studly, good-looking, handsome dude that all the girls think he's hot, And the master of the house's wife, Potiphar's wife, sees him and goes, oh, my goodness, this guy's legit. My husband's ugly or something like that. This is a sweet dude. And so when he's away, she's always trying to get Joseph to go to bed with her. And she's always trying, and he knows he can't do it. He'll get in trouble. It's not what God wants him to do. And then one day he walks in the house, and no one's in there. Kind of knows that's weird. And then she comes out, in her nice whatever she's wearing, and she's like, come to bed with me. And she grabs his tunic, and he's thinking he has a choice to make. I can go to bed with her. No one will know. No one will care. And I'll probably now get more favors from her, meaning I'll get more money. She'll probably treat me better. Or he can honor God and do and run. And what does he do is he actually runs, but when he does that, he has to slip out of his tunic, runs in his underwear to get away. And then because she's so embarrassed, When her husband comes home, she goes, look at what your servant Joseph did. He tried to rape me, and I yelled out, and when he ran, I grabbed his tunic, and he got thrown in prison. And you're like, but that sounds jacked up. Guess what? When we honor God, sometimes we get stupid things happen to us. That's unfair. It makes no sense. But here's what's crazy is God was preparing him, because later on, because he honored God in those small things, later on, God made him number 2 in the whole kingdom of Egypt. And he actually was able to save all of God's people because he was honored in the small things. Start now. Second thing is this: realize everything we do is developing our faith. Everything you do, who you talk to, how you treat people, how you do school, how you honor your parents, what you eat. I mean, it's all of it is developing our faith. It's an opportunity to develop our faith. Faith, if you want, write this down. Trusting God enough to do what he says. Trusting God enough to do what he says. Faith, whenever you see faith, you should always think, trusting God enough to do what he says. And I love that phrase, by the way, because it's not saying that I have faith, well, I hope. I just know he's going to do. I love it's the trusting him enough, meaning even when I don't think it's really going to happen, I'm going to trust him. It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego going, hey, you know what? We don't know if God is going to save us, but we're going to trust him enough. And you're like, God, you're crazy. I'm going to worship you, but I'm probably going to get killed for it, but I'm going to trust you. That's faith. It might not work, but I'm going to do it. That's real faith. Not, I know he's going to do it. I have no doubt. No, it's all right if I'm doubt. God, I don't think it's going to work, but you told me to do it. I'm going to do it. That's what's amazing about faith. And every opportunity is doing. So don't wait for bigger tests. A lot of us were like, and the small things doesn't matter, Trav. Whoopty, it's just a small little thing. So what? I cussed out that person. So what? I talked about that person behind their back. So what? I was mean to this person. So what? I didn't work hard on this. You know, they deserved it. It's unfair to me. I always get taken advantage of, so I decided to bend it my way. And we start making these excuses. And what happens is we think those ones aren't as big of a deal, but the big test, don't worry, I'll pass the big test. And I want you to know, everything you do is an opportunity to develop your faith. You might never get the big test. He might never use you in an amazing way because he's like, I can't, because you're going to fail it. I love it. Last week, Taylor talked about King David, but before he's king, David and Goliath story. You know, it's a story we've all heard, and he gave you the inside. But this isn't exactly the same because this wasn't a small test, but even David, before he fought 9'9" Goliath, who had killed thousands of people, he says, I was tested before where I had to go and save a sheep out of the mouths of lions and bears. And so God was preparing him for this battle. Okay, now, if you killed a bear or lion today, you're like legit, okay? That's a big test. But still, God was preparing him. It's the small things. Third thing is this. Go against the crowd, not God. Go against the crowd, not God. Here's the thing. A lot of us, I love this. I put on here, don't be afraid to be different. A lot of us, we're afraid to be different. We're not willing to go against the crowd because, especially in junior high and high school, we want to fit in. We want to not be noticed. We want to make sure we keep these friends. We want to make sure we're cool. We want to make sure life is easy. So guess what? We follow the crowd. We don't want to be different. You know what's funny? I have people who are like, well, Trav, I like being different. Yeah, you like being different because all your friends are trying to be different. But really, you're just different with your little group of friends. It might be a small little group of 10 of you, but there's still the reason you're doing it. Nobody wants to fly solo. Nobody wants to be the one that goes, well, I'm different, and everyone's like, who the heck is that weirdo? We don't want that. But I'm telling you right now, sometimes we need to make a stand like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We got to be different no matter what. But a lot of us, we're afraid to. We're afraid to be different. And what's funny is we aren't willing to go against the crowd, but every time we go with the crowd, and it's not something that God's called us to do, or it's a sin issue, we're going against God. So if you've chosen to say, forget you, God, screw you, God, that's what we're doing when sometimes we follow the crowd. We don't get it. We got to be careful. And the last one is this. Trust God no matter the consequences. Trust God no matter, the circumstances. I should have put consequences. That actually sounds better. Man, that'd probably be better. But trust God no matter what. In fact, don't let fear keep you from following God. I want to let you know something. It starts with the smaller things on how we obey God, even if we're going to get in trouble, but it starts now. He's preparing you. I think he wants to do something amazing in you, but it starts with us trusting God no matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on, no matter what could happen. There's another story. It's in Esther chapter 4. You got to read Esther. Esther's a great book because here's why Esther's awesome is it's a story about a Jewish girl who they don't know she's a Jew. They don't know she's an Israelite, who wins a beauty contest, the most beautiful girl in the whole kingdom, and she becomes the queen because of how beautiful she is. She has all this power. Now, here's the thing, because they don't know that she's an Israelite and a Jew, what happens is these people trick the king into making a proclamation to kill all the Jews. It's crazy. Could you imagine him saying, hey, on this date, this is in there, on this date, if you're living by a Jew, you're allowed to kill them and take all their possessions. It's like crazy, okay? Hey, on this date, if you know anyone that goes to North Coast Church, you are allowed to kill them and take their house. Could you imagine if that was a proclamation? That was what the proclamation is. You got to read Esther. It's amazing. So the Jews are freaking out, like, what the heck? So her uncle goes, hey, you got to help us. You're the queen. And she's like, but I can't. You see, back then, the queen, even though it's the queen, she couldn't just walk in front of the king and be like, yo, save us. Because if he doesn't ask for her and he doesn't want her to stand in front of his presence, he has to cut her head off. Hey, I did not summon you. I did not call you out. So for her to go up to him and talk to him was taking a risk. There's a chance she was going to be killed, but she was about trusting God no matter the circumstance. And so what did she do? She went before him. Now, luckily, God was protecting her. She found favor with this guy, saved all their people. In fact, it was amazing. He wrote a proclamation that said, not only, I can't reverse the other one, but you're allowed to defend yourself, and I'm going to even give you more people to defend yourselves, but you're allowed to kill them back, protect yourself. You get all their stuff, and I'm giving you more power, and blah, 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 and saved all the Jewish people. It's an incredible story. You got to check it out. Come on, there's so many throwback stuff we could do. There's amazing stories, and they're true. You can find out it's during this time. Trust God no matter the circumstance. Here's my challenge for you is this. Remember that it starts with the small things. Remember that it starts with the small things. Remember it starts with you taking a stand now. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God was preparing them, and it was they took the stand in the lunch line in high school. What if God's preparing you to do something amazing, but he needs you to start now obeying him in the small things? When no one's looking, when it doesn't seem like it's important, he's like, no, it is. It is. Let's pray. Dear God, I just want to thank you so much for who you are. Lord, I just pray for these students, Lord, that you would help them have the courage, the desire to right now start living for you and being different, Lord, so that you can use them to do something amazing. We don't know what you're preparing them for, Lord, but would you help them find success in the small things? We love you so much. In your name, amen.